Thank you, Chair. Minister, I haven't yet got your opening statement and I would like to ask some questions about it. Do you know if that's been circulated yet to the committee?
No, I don't know that.
It hasn't been? No. Is it going to be?
Sure. As I spoke, so...
Oh, right, okay. Well, I look forward to being able to ask some detailed questions about some of the things you said in your opening statement, but just at a high level, I haven't attended every single Senate estimate since you were Foreign Minister, but I've attended a fair few, and I don't recall an opening statement as partisan as that one, nor do I recall any of your predecessors in this forum making such a partisan opening statement. Is there a reason why you felt the need to make such a strong statement this morning?
Well, I don't accept the premise of your question.
Well, have you ever opened Senate estimates by making multiple references to the Leader of the Opposition by name before?
Well, I think when... well, first, I don't accept the premise of your opening question. I think it is a reasonable thing to respond to some of the bellicose rhetoric, which I don't think is in Australia's interests.
Can you recall a time where your predecessor would have used this forum for such a partisan statement?
I've seen a lot of partisanship in this forum, Senator, including yesterday from you.
Okay. You don't think it was reasonable to ask questions about what we knew and when we knew it about the People's Liberation Army Navy Task Force?
I think it is reasonable to ask those questions. I think gunboat diplomacy is a return to the drums of war rhetoric. And I don't think it is reasonable for the Leader of the Opposition to tell people in Menzies and Bennelong he's pro-China. I don't think it's reasonable for Mr Woolahan to tell people how you've changed your position and then engage in that sort of rhetoric in Canberra. And I think that should be pointed to. You can explain it.
It comes across, I mean, I know the media was bad this morning for the government. I know a range of commentators are very critical, but it comes across as very defensive. And I know an election's around the corner, but I just can't recall a Foreign Minister feeling the need to weigh in so strongly before.
Senator, they're your words.
Okay. I will have specific questions about the statement when it is circulated, but turning to the People's Liberation Army Navy Task Force, do you have an update on its whereabouts today?
That's a matter for Defence.
We asked Defence yesterday and they said that they were briefing DFAT so that DFAT could brief you so that you were on top of it. Have you received an update from the department?
Those are operational matters for Defence, and if you want an update from Defence, I would refer you to the Deputy Prime Minister's office.
I don't have the same opportunities to ask questions of him, as you know.
Well, Senator, I don't know whether the opposition... I know that Mr Dutton was quite late to ask for a briefing on this. I don't know if you've sought a further briefing. I'm sure that if you seek a further briefing, we will provide one.
It's funny you should say that. We did ask for briefings and we had some difficulty scheduling them. I'm not sure if it was the availability of officials or some other reason. And just on that...
If I could just also say, my recollection is, and I'll check with the Defence portfolio, that there are regular statements updating in relation to this. Ms Lawson might be able to assist on Ms Deserton.
Thank you, Senator. Ellie Lawson, Deputy Secretary, Geostrategic and Planning Group. The Department of Defence is making regular updates on their website.
Yes. Will there be an update today?
Did you not check this morning? If you were very keen. I think it went live at 8:30.
Okay, well then you should be able to answer the question.
No, it's a Defence statement, sir.
Right, so it's not in your state of knowledge?
It's a Defence statement.
Yeah, and we've been told by Defence you've been regularly briefed. If you're not aware, you can say so.
No. I refer you to the statement, which is very transparent and professional.
Is it in the state of knowledge of any officials here today?
Is what? In their state of knowledge of any officials?
The whereabouts, the current whereabouts of the People's Liberation Army Navy Task Force?
Senator, I would refer you to the update on the website of the Department of Defence.
Thank you. So is that a no? That's not in the state of knowledge of any officials?
All right, mates, grab your popcorn, crack open a cold one, and settle in, because what went down in Senate estimates this week wasn't your usual Canberra snooze fest. Nah, this one had everything: tension, ego, a bit of bureaucratic breakdancing, and a senator who came loaded for bear. Before we wrap up this Senate smackdown, where James Paterson turned Penny Wong inside out, Albo's spin went up in flames, and Canberra pretended nothing happened. Smash that like button like you're fact-checking the government in real time. Subscribe if you're sick of political doublespeak. And grab the Who Voted for This shirt links in the description. Now, before we dive headfirst into this political drama, picture the scene. It's Senate estimates, the gladiator pit of Australian politics. The fluorescent lights are humming, the microphones are hot, and everyone's pretending they're not sweating bullets. Ministers lined up like students caught without homework, staffers nervously clutching folders, and in walks Senator James Paterson, sleeves metaphorically rolled up, eyes locked on his target, the Foreign Minister herself, Penny Wong. You can practically feel the temperature drop when he sits down. This isn't some cushy morning talk show. This is where politicians get asked the questions they'd rather answer in another lifetime. And Penny Wong? She's usually as smooth as they come, calm, polished, diplomatic to the point of poetry. But today? Today, she's about to get hit with a blizzard of questions faster than you can say, with respect, Senator. James starts off polite, deceptively polite, thanking the chair, asking for Penny's opening statement. You know, the one she apparently drafted, edited, and then possibly redrafted while speaking it live. Because here's the kicker, she hasn't actually circulated it to the committee yet. And the moment James asks if she has, Penny hesitates. You can see it, that brief pause that tells you this isn't going to be a routine Q&A. Oh, she says, I think I made changes as I spoke. Right there, you could almost hear a collective what the hell ripple through the room. Changes as she spoke? Is she the Minister for Foreign Affairs or a freestyle jazz performer riffing on policy notes mid-sentence? You could tell James smelled blood in the water. He leans in, respectful but sharp, and goes, Right, well, I've been to a few of these estimates before, and I don't recall an opening statement as partisan as that one. Bang. The first jab lands. He's not just questioning her procedure, he's calling out the tone, accusing her of turning a parliamentary process into a campaign stump speech. Penny tries to swat it away, giving her classic, I don't accept the premise of your question. That line, the political equivalent of a talk to the hand, it's her shield, her catchphrase. You could almost put it on merch. But James isn't having it. He presses, has she ever opened a Senate hearing by naming the leader of the opposition, Peter Dutton, multiple times? Because she did today, 3 times to be exact. 3. That's not an oversight. That's choreography. It's like opening your statement with a roast instead of a report. Penny denies it, of course, trying to pivot into diplomatic waffle about responding to rhetoric not in Australia's interest. But the look on James' face says it all. He's heard enough talking points to spot one from a mile away. Then comes the part that turns the whole hearing from mildly spicy to full-blown political jalapeno. The topic, the Chinese Navy task force doing live-fire exercises off Tasmania. Now, that's not small potatoes. That's a big deal. You've got foreign warships playing target practice in our backyard, the kind of thing you'd expect every minister to be briefed on instantly. But apparently, that wasn't quite the case. James asks, do you have an update on its whereabouts today? Penny deflects. That's a matter for defense. Classic handball. But hold on, because defense had already said they'd brief DFAT so that DFAT could brief her. And here's where it gets hilarious in the tragic sense. Defense says, we briefed DFAT. DFAT says, that's defense's area. Meanwhile, James is sitting there like, is anyone in this room actually in charge? Eventually, after some awkward silence and paper shuffling, a departmental official pipes up and finally gives an answer. The task force is about 548 kilometers west of Hobart. Finally, we have a number. You can practically hear James thinking, was that so hard? But what happens next is where the whole thing goes from comedy to farce. James starts untangling the timeline. Who knew what, when? Turns out, a Virgin Australia pilot was the first one to notice the exercise. Not defense, not DFAT, not even the Prime Minister's office, a commercial airline pilot. Imagine that. You've got an F-16 flying over the Tasman, and the first report doesn't come from a radar or a naval commander. It comes from a bloke in a cockpit probably listening to smooth jazz on Qantas radio. And get this, the first minister to be informed wasn't Penny Wong, the foreign minister, or Richard Marles, the defense minister. Nope. It was Catherine King, the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport. Because, and this is real, the issue first went through aviation safety channels. So while the foreign minister, the person responsible for handling diplomatic fallouts, was in South Africa sipping rooibos and checking her phone, the infrastructure minister was getting briefed about potential Chinese warships firing missiles near Tasmania. You can't make this up. James, with that mix of sarcasm and precision that's become his brand, asks the obvious. How on earth does the Transport Minister get notified before the Foreign Minister? Penny deflects again, saying the process was covered in evidence yesterday. Translation: I don't want to talk about it, but James keeps the pressure on. Don't you think that's a problem? He asks. And Penny, oh, Penny, she bites back, accusing him of politicizing the issue, which, frankly, is like accusing a firefighter of making a fuss about a blaze because it's election season. He's not wrong to ask if national security ministers are finding out about security incidents after domestic ministers, something seriously out of whack. The exchange gets spisher. Penny tries to flip it, saying James is just grandstanding, that the opposition only requested a briefing 4 days after the incident. James shoots back, well, maybe if you offered one instead of giving them to the media first, we wouldn't have to. The air in that room could have been sliced with a butter knife. It's now less a hearing and more a tennis match, volleys flying back and forth. Penny keeps serving up non-answers. James keeps smacking them down with receipts. And through it all, you can feel the frustration bubbling, not just from James, but even from the chair trying to keep order. And then we hit the infamous notice debacle. Penny's opening statement said, "We were not provided advance notice." Simple, clear, no advance warning from China. But the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has been out there telling the press, "We were given notice around the same time as the Virgin pilot." Those two statements can't both be true. One of them's got to be off the mark. So James asks, point blank, "Why is there a discrepancy between your statement and the Prime Minister's?" Penny, ever the word acrobat, replies, "I don't accept that there's a discrepancy. Mate, that's like saying a koala's not a bear because it's a marsupial, technically true, but completely missing the point." James keeps at it, drilling into the timeline. According to Defense, there was a 50-minute gap between the Virgin pilot's report and the Defense Forces update. That's not around the same time, that's after. In military terms, that's a lifetime. 50 minutes of silence while foreign ships are conducting live fire drills in your waters is not exactly comforting, but Penny doubles down. Both statements are correct, she insists. Both. That's like saying it's both raining and sunny, technically possible, sure, but if you walk outside, you're still getting wet. James raises an eyebrow. You can almost hear his internal monologue. "You've got to be kidding me." He repeats the question. She repeats the line. Both statements are correct. That's the hill she's choosing to die on. It's bureaucratic Schrodinger's cat. We both did and didn't get notice. By this point, you can tell Penny's getting frustrated. Her tone sharpens. She starts accusing James of creating a political grab. But here's the thing, he's not making this up. The Prime Minister said one thing. She said another. And neither of them can explain the mismatch without tying themselves in knots. Then, just to twist the knife, James goes for the jugular. Will the Prime Minister apologize for misleading the Australian people? The question lands like a thunderclap. Penny's response? That is not what has occurred. No explanation. No elaboration. Just another deflection neatly wrapped in bureaucraties. And that's when you realize this isn't a debate anymore. It's a demolition. James has systematically cornered her into admitting, without actually saying it, that the government's story doesn't add up. Now, I've got to hand it to Penny Wong. She's one of the sharpest politicians in Canberra. Normally, she controls the tempo, keeps her cool, and cuts opponents down with surgical precision. But today, she's on the back foot. Every attempt to parry turns into another opportunity for James to push harder. Every refer you to the evidence yesterday only reminds the public that she doesn't want to give a fresh answer today. And when she tries to turn it around, accusing him of politicizing, it just falls flat. Because no matter how you spin it, the facts are the facts. The government got caught flat-footed, and the timeline doesn't match their public statements. By the time it wraps up, you can almost see the exhaustion in the room. Penny's done her best to survive the onslaught without giving ground. James looks like a bloke who just finished a marathon and still has enough energy for a victory lap. And the public, well, they're left with the spectacle of two senior politicians arguing over who knew what, when, while a Virgin pilot quietly earned himself a spot in the unofficial Australian Intelligence Service. But let's be real, mates, what makes this clip so bloody compelling isn't just the policy debate. It's the theatre. The back and forth, the timing, the sarcasm, it's pure political sport. You don't even have to agree with James Paterson's politics to appreciate the craftsmanship of that grilling. The man was methodical, disciplined, and relentless. And Penny? Well, for once, she looked human. Vulnerable, even. Normally she's untouchable, the iron diplomat. But this time, you could see the cracks forming, the pauses between her sentences, the flashes of irritation, the little sighs before she said, "I don't accept the premise." If Senate estimates had a scoreboard, it would have been James 10, Penny 3, and Albo watching from the sidelines wondering why his talking points weren't sticking. Because let's not forget, this whole exchange wasn't just about Penny. It was about defending the Prime Minister's narrative. When the PM says one thing and his Foreign Minister says another, that's not just awkward, it's dangerous. It signals confusion at the top, and in foreign affairs, perception is half the battle. So, what's the takeaway? For the government, it's a reminder that spin might get you through a press conference, but it won't save you in estimates. For the opposition, it's a golden clip for every highlight reel between now and the next election. And for the rest of us, it's a front row seat to the kind of accountability theatre that makes Aussie politics so endlessly fascinating. Because here's the truth, mate, we might groan about politics, roll our eyes at question time, and swear at the telly when someone dodges a question. But deep down, we love the drama. We love watching someone stand their ground, even if we disagree with them. We love seeing politicians held to account, because it reminds us that under all the spin, the power still belongs to the people asking the questions, and the ones watching the answers unfold. So, hats off to James Paterson for showing up ready to play hardball, and to Penny Wong for standing her ground in what was basically a live-fire exercise of her own. But let's call it what it was, a political humiliation, executed with surgical precision on live TV. A masterclass in persistence versus evasion. A reminder that in Australian politics, even the smoothest operators can get caught flat-footed when someone's willing to keep asking and asking and asking until the truth peeks through the cracks. And that, mates, is why Senate estimates, as dry and procedural as it sounds, can sometimes be the most explosive entertainment in the country. You don't need explosions or chase scenes when you've got sharp tongues, sharp minds, and microphones that don't mute. Because in the end, what you watched wasn't just another hearing. It was a glimpse of how power really works, how words can dance, how truth can wobble, and how, every now and then, someone like James Paterson walks into that room and refuses to let it slide. And when that happens, when the spin hits the wall and the script starts to crumble, that's when the real show begins. Smash that like button if you enjoyed watching the government try to explain its way out of a burning paper trail. Subscribe if you reckon accountability shouldn't be a rare event. And as always, keep your eyes open, your beers cold, and your politicians on a short leash. Because if we don't hold them accountable, no one will. And grab the Who Voted for This shirt, links in the description.